What's going on, everyone? So in my last video, I was very deliberate. I said we could not look at the DC Guard shooting as anything but a singular event because at the time, that's all it was. One individual, one act, tragic, but isolated. And I stood by that framing because it was the responsible way to look at it. Now, just fast forward a short time later, we have another Afghan national, again, tied to the same resettlement program as the last one. And this one was arrested in Texas for attempting to build a bomb. So now we have two separate individuals, two separate plots, both connected to the same pipeline. And that is not coincidence. That's a signal. And when we're talking about national security, it's not enough to look at single events in isolation. The real challenge and the real responsibility is to recognize that when those events start forming a pattern, because patterns are signals and signals are warnings. Warnings that we ignore at our own peril. And here's why all of this combined together gets even more concerning. The timing. These incidences didn't happen, years apart from each other. They happened in close succession. Convenient timing? Maybe a little too convenient. Could it be a coincidence? Possibly. Could it be something more deliberate? We don't know. But here's the point. The timing itself is a signal worth paying attention to, because when events stack up this closely, we have to ask, are we really just seeing random chance, or are we witnessing coordination? And even if it is coincidence, does that make it any less dangerous? And this is where we need to take a step back and look at the fact that we have two cases, same program, same timing. Is this a pattern, or could it be activation? And these patterns need to be paid attention to, because recognizing those is how our intelligence agencies, law enforcement, and even just community spot risks before they become tragedies. And here's another layer. Sometimes what looks like utter chaos can also just be pure manipulation. History teaches us that psychological operations, or psyops, if you've heard that word thrown around, they don't announce themselves openly. I think one of the ways you know you might be in the middle of one is when speaking out against it is either discouraged or censored or even punished. Because if you aren't allowed to question something from either side of it, that itself is a signal, because freedom means the ability to ask hard questions. And if that freedom is restricted, we should really be asking why. And let's be honest here. These events don't just create fear. They also create division. Every time something like this happens, it is capitalized on and amplified in ways that pit people against each other. And we've been shown that time and time again. And division, whether intentional or not, it serves a purpose, because all throughout history, we've been shown that a divided people are easier to control. When communities are fractured, when neighbors distrust neighbors, basically when the citizens are too busy fighting each other to ask bigger questions, power consolidates quietly. And that is why we have to be alert, not just to the events themselves, but to how these events are used. And don't get me wrong here. This isn't about politics. This is, not pointing fingers. It's about recognizing that when the same pipeline produces multiple violent actors in a short span of time, and when open discussion is suppressed, we have to take notice. Ignoring it doesn't make the risk go away. If anything, it only makes us more vulnerable. And if you go back, history also teaches us that real threats rarely announce themselves loudly. If anything, they whisper. They show up in those small signals, in repeated incidents, in timing that feels just a little too close for comfort. And if those signals get dismissed as coincidence, we miss the chance to act before the next tragedy. Think about it. I mean, in all reality, how many coincidences does it take before we're called a pattern? 2, maybe 3? At what point can we stop saying isolated incident and start saying this is a systemic risk? And that's why vigilance matters, because we need to scrutinize the programs that are bringing people here. And quite honestly, the only people that can do that right now are the ones that make up the current administration. And yeah, I get it. The individuals that were brought here during this program, that was under the Biden administration. Okay, fair enough. That is a fact that you cannot argue against. But Biden isn't in office anymore. And the Trump administration campaign was ran on safety and security and law and order and fixing what was broken. Where is it? All I've seen lately is a lot of excuse making and censorship for the apparent protection of elites. And I get it. Yeah, I will certainly give it to Trump. He went to the southern border hard. And for the most part, I think that issue has been largely addressed. And the statistics and the numbers, they support that. And I absolutely get why he had to start there. I mean, you have to patch the hole in the side of the ship before you start mopping up the water. But I'm tired of hearing how great of a job was done. I mean, yeah, that's terrific. But that's now in the past, and that's not excusing the current failures. We need to be asking the tough questions about vetting, about oversight and accountability. Safety isn't partisan. Safety is universal. And right along with that, vigilance is the price of freedom. So as these events unfold and stories break, remember, these aren't just headlines. Realistically, they're warnings, and warnings are only useful if we listen. Close timing, repeated signals, shared pathways, all of it points to one truth. And with the way things are headed right now, vigilance is not optional. It is the responsibility of every leader, of every community, and really every citizen who values freedom, because freedom without vigilance is fragile, and fragile freedom is freedom at risk. And with that, I hope you liked it. Please click that like and subscribe button. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. Be safe.